Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be playing Nasus and we'll be facing off against the Volibear adventure from the Titans of Runeterra campaign. Since we need to go ahead and beat this adventure with Nasus, I figured I should get it out of the way. If I'm not mistaken, this adventure is rather easy, right? When either player adds a card to their hand, set its cost to 3. So yeah, we're just going to draft a high cost deck and then overwhelm the opponent with our bigger units. I'm still running the same setup I always run on Nasus, the Beast Within for the overwhelm on my units. Scales of Judgment is obviously very synergistic with Nasus. And then Echoing Spirits, just in case we get some nice items on the Siphoning Strike. That way we can get more value out of it. And I like Siphoning Strike as a spell, especially if it's at burst speed. Dragon's Rage and Natural Selection. Best defense. I'm not keen on any of these. Maybe a Natural Selection is decent. Even then, that's 3 keyboards. 3 keywords, 4 and 5 on Nasus. And then the 6th one is on the Rockhopper. 4 +2/+2 on everything, but does the +2/+2 really matter? Nah, let's reroll. Thrice-bound, New Student, Bouncing Blades. Not exactly what I want. Thrice-bound summons a Rampaging Bakai. If only I had something else in my deck, maybe Thrice-bound would be better. Wait. When either player adds a card to their hand, set its cost to 3. Will this work with Thrice-bound? That's what I'm wondering. Because if it works, we can just get some massive unit, cheat it out with Thrice-bound, and then we very easily release it, because the shackles will only cost 3. Sure, for the first game it's not going to be that great, because it's just going to pull a Rampaging Bakai. But still, let's try it. For science, see if it works. Avarose and Hearthguard. Yeah, the Exhaust is definitely the weakest card in this deck right now. Unfortunately, all of the cards having their cost set to 3 impacts negatively the cheaper cards in my deck. So it doesn't work. In fact it actually has anti-synergy with this, because it costs 1 more than it should now. I'll make it work somehow. Let's pass the turn. I want the opponent to summon something just so I can use the Bakai Sun Spinner on it. Oh, sure. Let's trade the Bakai Sun Spinner just so I can Siphoning Strike it with the Rampaging Bakai that's cursed. Unless... well, I suppose we can reduce the cost of the curse with our power. And that's one way to make the unit that we have shackled playable. But it's not the prettiest way to go about it. We hold back Nasus there just so we get more value out of the summon Nasus effect. And now, can I actually go for a kill? No, unfortunately not. But we can level up Nasus.
Life and death inexorably interwoven.
That's nice. That's something we can easily deal with. At this point we're just going to be able to clear whatever the opponent summons with extreme ease.
What do you sense, Daddy? I smell would-be fever.
That's fine. We just need the opponent to pass the turn back to us so we can go ahead and close out this game. Even with our lesser resources, we're in a great position. One from which the opponent cannot come back from. Unless he had maybe buried in ice. And even then, it's not a guarantee that he survives an attack, or that he doesn't survive the up until the point where the units get released from the landmarks.
Patience and fortitude outlast all things.
Well, now we just have to try and make our poor decision at the start of the game, work for us by going ahead and trying to draft a expensive unit that also works as an engine. Heisho comes to mind. It would be nice to pull it out of the deck. The Invasive Hydravine too. Not sure. Let's go for the Viego. Just the Invasive Hydravine alone was the thing that captivated me. Stargazer or Unscarred River. Yeah, let's go for the Unscarred River. I know that the Stargazer encounter has some elusive units and I don't like dealing with elusives. Lakai Sandspinner, Nasus, Viego. We're going to keep one Nasus and one Viego in hand. We're going to draw a champion at the start of the game, so that's an extra card. Worst case scenario, we just drop down the Viego on the first turn. But first we pass priority back to the opponent just so we can hopefully bait him into playing something that I can kill with the units I have on board. Which is definitely not the Scar Mother of Rina.
The soul wears away like grains of sand.
Pledge to set one is service.
We are both companions.
If only he had played that first. Could have gone for an attack with the Bakai Sandspinner and then killed that thing with the Viego. I suppose I can still go for the Viego, though that thing doesn't die, which is unfortunate. I don't really want to fuel the growth of the Scar Mother Vrina's attack, but I don't think I really have an option. This is fine though. This attack. We kill the Scar Mother Vrina. Even if Viego is set to 1, that's fine because it has Deathless. And now we have reduced the cost of most of the cards in my hand back to 1. Or down to 1. Viego is still getting buffed. We can... I was about to say we can deal with whatever the opponent summons here. But that's a lie, we can't. Because he summoned 2 units with some very large shelf totals. It's still fine. As units die, or Viego gets larger, the point where he levels up. And now we just have to attack him with the units I have on board and I win. I think. I hope. He might have frostbites. Okay, he doesn't have frostbites. Lucky me. Now that I'm thinking about it, I remember Malphite being a very big problem. But why was Malphite a big problem? That's the part I'm not remembering. What? Highest cost follower. I want to keep pulling the invasive Hydravine, so I have to forego the Sanctum Conservator, unfortunately. Let's go a glimpse beyond. It will be... the cost will be up to 3 mana, but I think that's alright. Unyielding Determination. Well, it can act as a nice buffer for the Malphite, since I'm so worried about it. Yeah, sure. What are the odds that this shop has something that I really want? Disarm would have been neat, I suppose, but it's not the end of the world to pass up on it. Let's move on. Maybe I'll just try and keep some Nasus in my opening hand against Malphite and use Nasus champion spell to remove said Malphite from the board. And that's the end of my problems. At least I hope things work out that way. Anyway, back to the game that's currently going on. Now the opponent has something that ties to Viego. That's very important. The earlier we start killing stuff, the quicker Nasus levels up, and the larger Viego gets. Ally strikes the strongest and weakest enemies one after the other. We'll wait until he plays something else. Like that. Now that's 2 less units. Okay, we just had a fantastic start this game. The opponent got to play a grand total of nothing. And now we just deal with whatever he, or the next 2 units he plays with the Nasus we have in hand. Like this. Maybe I'm too worried about Malphite. I do have a very synergistic deck here. Maybe we'll just try and pick up more expensive spells. So even if we don't get to have expensive units because we want to pull the invasive Hydravine, we can still have expensive spells we can cast for cheap. That can be interesting. What champion synergizes with expensive spells? I should say, what champion synergizes with expensive spells, like this one, but also likes to cast them for cheap? Because, for example, the original Lux likes expensive spells, but she likes to cast them for their original cost, not cheapened versions of them. Let's just cut the cheapest cards from my deck, the ones that get their cost increased when we draw them, and be done. Alright. Time to see if Malphite really is that big of a threat. Let's toss these 2 back. I'm definitely keeping the Nasus and the Siphoning Strike. Okay, we have a bunch of Nasus in hand. So even if our Nasus gets removed, we have a way to deal with the opponent. For each landmark the foe has, they stun your weakest unit. And if I'm not mistaken, yeah, they start with a spiral stair, so they get something that gives one of their units overwhelm. And then we have Malphite, which is a threat. You can just reduce his stats by 8, like this. Sure. Now it's no longer a threat.
I hope you never change.
Do I want to go for Nasus here? We don't really do much of anything by going Nasus here. But we can set up kills on future turns on those two units. Ooh. That's significantly better. I didn't realize the deafening strikes would have their cost reduced to 0. I guess that it has something to do with the way the power interacts. If I'm not mistaken, it sets the cost to 3, but any cost reductions that are applied afterwards still work, unlike the shackles, which for some reason gets the cost increased. It's probably the ordering the cards are generated in or something.
Life and death intertwined. The wheel.
Anyway, I'm pretty sure we're in a safe position. The opponent doesn't have a Malphite and they are not in a position to level up whatever Malphites they have because they can't play them. Anything else you want to do, opponent? No? Okay. I'll take it. Oh, right. Gets to stun my units. That's a bit annoying. I'm going to do this just to try and get through my deck. Maybe we can find lethal. We can definitely summon Viego here. Go for another Defenders of the Sun disc. Releasing the invasive Hydravine does nothing. But it does. But we are in a position to attack with Viego like this. Okay. We don't kill the opponent, but we get him very low. Okay, now I remember why the Malphite was a problematic fight. If he gets the right hand, it just starts chain stunning all of your units with the landmarks he has on board. And that would be a problem if he had units on board to capitalize on it and attack your defenseless Nexus. Fortunately, he doesn't have units on board, and that means he can't really do much of anything. Oh, that's still lethal, but it was kind of close. I was running out of resources, and the opponent was pulling a bunch of rockfall paths, so my units were getting obliterated. Eventually they would draw Malphite and I would be in a very terrible position for me. Fortunately that didn't happen. Do I want to Titanify on Nasus? Maybe. It helps when I have to play Nasus down without having slain any of the opponent's units, like it happened last game. Communal mana flow. I'm very torn in between the communal mana flow and the deep cuts. If I'm not mistaken, the first application of Echord gets its cost set to 3. Now the real question is, do subsequent applications of the curse get their cost increased or not. If it works like the curse on the thrice bound, the shackles, theoretically, since it's applying the curse multiple times, the cost does get increased. So the deep cuts is decent because of that. Also because it deals double damage to the opponent because of the deadly. And I'm pretty sure I don't want the opponent to have communal mana flow. And while hold them off is generally good and overall better than the deep cuts, I feel like having fun. Also we're going for the bottom path because it's a harder challenge apparently. It's a vicious enemy at least. I want to keep this hand? Nah. I am going to keep one Nasus and one Sifting Strike though. Okay. Decent enough hand. Let's see what the opponent starts with. A grand total of nothing. I can just attack twice with my encroaching mists to apply 6 or apply a 6 costing curse to the opponent's Nexus. Do I want to do that? Sure. It also gives priority to the opponent. And that gives me a way to just slam down the Viego. The opponent's units do get to grow significantly more than they would normally. I'm pretty sure the baseline version of this power is just a simple +1/+1. It makes sense that it's buffed for this adventure though. It is a higher start adventure after all. -4 to the opponent's Nexus. Can go for Nasus here, or I can just glimpse beyond one of my own units, get some card draw going, give priority back to the opponent to see if he develops a bigger board. Okay, that's a slightly more concerning board, mostly because it has elusive. I don't want to be hit by an elusive unit. Ooh, and now we can drop down Nasus and level him up.
The wheel never stops turning.
Let's release the invasive Hydravine, and then next turn the opponent just dies to my board. Unfortunately, the card wasn't really that relevant this game, but it did help chip away at the opponent's health total a little bit. So let's lie to ourselves and say it was relevant. Or Castigate. Do I want more Castigate? Not really, because it will only summon a 3-cost unit. But it's not that... Or the other cards are not that much better than Castigate. Let's take the Desert Duel. I feel I can make Desert Duel work. And then we save the rerolls for another time. Crumbling Sand is interesting. Ooh, and hold them off. Yeah, let's purchase the hold them off first and foremost. And I actually do want the Crumbling Sands because it's a very good piece of removal, especially if it costs 1 less and also discards a card from the opponent's hand in the process. And I get to keep enough mana to or enough money to purchase an additional power in the upcoming shop. I am going to keep this hand, but I would like if there was a unit I could play on the first turn. Yeah, like the Camavorant Soldier maybe. Can go for that. I don't need to Crumbling Sands just yet. I think I'll use the Crumbling Sands on a unit that gets a bunch of or a very buffed up weapon applied to it. Just because the Crumbling Sands will destroy said unit. We do this. Start ramping up our Nasus' stats a little bit. Next turn we can go for the Crumbling Sands on the Wrath Colossus if need be. Or we can do that on that Wrath, or we can go for the Crumbling Sands on that Wrath Colossus. Just so we don't have to deal with an infinite chain of Wrath Colossus.
Give me a blade. I'll give you a corpse.
Turns out that was the correct decision.
You've got to go.
That's fine. That just works out in my favor. Because now things have been set up so that when I summon Nasus, never mind. I was saying when I summon Nasus, I immediately level him up because I'll get to attack and strike into the opponent's units beforehand. Except the opponent went ahead and summoned something and completely messed up my game plan. It's fine. We're just going to do this, level up Nasus. We wait for the opponent to go ahead and summon an additional unit by passing priority back to him. Never mind. I figured the opponent would want to play something since they had 3 mana to spare. But it turns out I was mistaken. Ooh, that's a problem. I fully intended to use the Boomerang Blade on Nasus. I can still use it on the Invasive Hydravine though, so it's fine. Ooh. Unfortunately it doesn't work after the round start, so we won't get to rally. Still, it's a neat card. Anyway, let's close out this game, shall we? Sure, it may seem like the opponent's going to survive this, but the curse just closes out the game next turn because he takes 14 from it. Because for once the deadly will actually work against the opponent, not in favor of it. Let's hope the riotgames does nerf this interaction, because I'm pretty sure otherwise the Ichor power just becomes irrelevant in higher tier adventures because the damage just won't be there. Unfortunately I can't go for Xantham Conservator. Transferent Might is very nice. Let's pick it up. And that's about it. Let's move on. What card do I want to cut here? We picked up the Desert Duel, but the Desert Duel is by far the worst card in my deck. It doesn't really do much compared to some of my other options. Let's cut it to boost our consistency, shall we?
It is my favorite that must
And
be
now, Volibear. When the foe attacks, they cast Relentless Storms, targeting a random ally or your nexus, if none, for each attacking Titanic unit. Was that the same power the opponent had before? I don't or the Volibear had before. I don't remember. Maybe I just stomped Volibear so hard that his power was never really relevant. Or maybe when I lost, the opponent's power or the Volibear's power is not ever relevant. So that's why I'm not remembering. Okay, so he obviously starts out the game with Volibear. If I'm not mistaken, the opponent has a bunch of removal. That's fine. We can just Crumbling Sands that. Which is exactly what I'll do, but first I'm going to declare an attack. So we do this at burst speed or at fast speed. And we got lucky and we hit a War Mother Skull that he had in hand. That's very important. But he had a second War Mother Skull in hand. That's a bit of a problem. I'm going to hold the Crumbling Sands in case he summoned something scarier, which he didn't, fortunately. Let's do this. Work on clearing that unit with the Weight of Judgment, since it's a somewhat clean kill. Winter's Breath. I'm fine with that. Does this discard a curse? Maybe. It does. So that's a bit of anti-synergy there. I'm still going to drop down Nasus here though. We get rid of the Volibear that way. And while we don't level up Nasus, we do manage to level him up right afterwards. Maybe not. It depends on what the opponent has in hand here. I'm going to do this. Pass priority back to the opponent. Nothing. That's very interesting.
They will learn just as we did.
Maybe the opponent doesn't really have any threats left. A man can dream.
Frost revives.
Turns out he does have threats left.
the expansive
Or not threats, he does have one fourth clear left. So it won't actually be that relevant. Because it only clears one of my units. Well, let's get that curse going again. He now has spare mana to get rid of the curse though, since he'll only have 2 cards in hand. Ooh. Double Invocation of Thunder. Interesting decision. I mean, it does give him more cards in hand, and he managed to get rid of the curse, but is it relevant enough? Okay, we have some backup plans in case he gets rid of the Nasus, so we're fine. Even with the constant summoning off of the War Mother Skull, the opponent just doesn't get there in terms of turning the board in his favor, so it just loses. Okay, it definitely helped that I managed to get rid of or consistently get rid of the opponent's units. That was a very nice showing. So yeah, that will be it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Till then.